This is a demonstration video on how to combat negative thought patterns. Today I'm going to demonstrate a cognitive behavioral therapy exercise, better known as CBT. This method is used by many psychologists and proven effective in changing the way we think. If you are someone who suffers from anxiety, depression, a low self-esteem, or irrational fears, you'll be able to combat these negative thought patterns in this simple but effective exercise. Many of us have experienced some type of trauma in our lives, resulting in the way we view ourselves, others, and everyday events. These thought patterns seem to spiral out of control, causing us to develop these fears. So how can we overcome these powerful thoughts that cause us such grief? The exercise I'm going to show you today can be used by anyone, and it really is quite simple. With repetitive use, this exercise can change the way that we think and make us think more positively. It's important to remember that we do not develop these negative thinking patterns overnight, therefore they will not be changed immediately. In essence, we must first want to create a change and be willing to put in the time and effort in order to see positive results. We are going to write down our thoughts on paper because trying to do them in our mind is not as effective. It's important for us to see our thoughts on paper. So we're going to begin. We are first going to identify our issue. For example, we can say, I'm afraid to drive on the interstate. So we've first identified the issue. Then we're going to move on and make two columns. Labeling column 1, negative thoughts. Labeling column 2, positive thoughts. In column 1, we're going to list all the negative thoughts that surround our main issue. So in this case, again, I'm afraid to drive on the interstate. Some examples of the things that would run through our mind causing us to have that fear would be maybe something obvious like, I'll have an accident. Another one may be that you're afraid of the big trucks that are on the interstate. So you could say, I'll get hit by a truck. Another one may be the ultimate fear that you'll have an accident and die. So you write, I'll be killed. So with each one of these, we want to do a belief scale from 0 to 100, meaning that we're going to label each one of these on how much we believe each one to be true. So in the first one, I'll have an accident. You may very possibly believe that to be 100% true. So we're going to put 100% beside that. We're going to do the same with negative thought 2 and 3. I'll get hit by a truck. Maybe you believe that to be 75% true. Labeling that 75%. I'll be killed. Perhaps you believe that to be 100% true. So now that we've identified the issue and labeled our negative thoughts, we're going to move on to column 2, our positive thoughts, and it's going to go the same as we have done in column 1. It's important here for us to believe the positive thoughts that we are listing, because if we don't believe them, it's going to be hard to overcome the thoughts that we have in the negative column. So sometimes it's hard for us to think about the positive thoughts because the negative seems to overrule everything. So it's advisable to take yourself out of the situation and perhaps think of it as a friend's issue who you're giving advice to. So some positive, more realistic thoughts that we can put into column 2 would be, I've never had an accident before. Another one would be, I could have an accident anywhere. It's not limited to the interstate at all. Another one would be that you may have an accident, but you don't know for sure that you're going to die. That's just a negative thought. You don't know for sure. These thoughts are all realistic thoughts. And in this column, we're going to do the same belief scale from 0 to 100, the same as we did in column 1. So, I've never had an accident. That may be 100% true, that you've never had an accident on the interstate. The next one, I could have an accident anywhere. Well, we all know that's absolutely true. We can label that one 100%. I may not die. That's 100% true, because you can't fortune tell and know what's going to happen unless it actually happens. So now that we've identified our issue, we've listed our negative thoughts, our positive thoughts, we're able to go through our belief scale and see that if our positive thought is 100 for I've never had an accident, that cancels everything out over here as far as I'll have an accident. Because if we believe this to be 100% true, we can't believe this also to be 100% true. So this cancels this out. We're going to continue on with the next two, and as many as you may have labeled, doing the same subtraction process. So I'll get hit by a truck was believed at 75%. We now have trumped that statement by saying I could have an accident anywhere. And we believe that to be 100%, so that cancels out the 75%, making this statement also not very believable anymore. Moving on, thinking I'll be killed, believe that 100%. We've also identified here that I may not die. And that's 100% true, which cancels this thought out right here. Overall, in this exercise, we've identified our issue, we've listed our negative thoughts, we've labeled each one on the belief scale, we've listed our positive thoughts, we've listed each one on the belief scale, and we are now better able to see how misconstrued our mind actually is at times whenever we have a belief about something that's not true. We were able to go through and list each one to get our mindset in a better frame that we're able to see the reality versus what our mind has made up and wants us to believe. So with that being said, we were able to reduce our anxieties, reduce our fears, and have much happier thoughts. Thank you.